I haven't really done a lot of these because let's face it, it really has not been interesting at all in the world of wrestling. So I practically did not do last week's, but this week was interesting. This is my NG minute for the week of May 6th. May 6th being Monday, Monday being Monday Night Raw. Now, let's be real here. The main event and the main talk over everything on Raw was the not the Ryback. Well, not only Ryback's um, constant feud with John Cena, it was also It was also the invasion of Brock Lesnar in WWE headquarters, and absolutely hearing Triple H's response. Now, the invasion was an interesting angle. The fact is that they're really trying to beef up this feud between Triple H and Brock Lesnar for Extreme Rules. I have to say that I liked it. I really did like the invasion angle, and Brock Lesnar needs to look more like a beast than ever. We all know he's not going to win. It's freaking Triple H. But I will say this: Brock Lesnar, that whole invasion angle is making him look like a beast. And I think they're really doing it well, making him look as dirty and as mean and as monstrous as he can possibly be. And it makes you really interested to see how Triple H is going to work this. And seeing in his response, he really knew how to work it. Like when it comes to a segment or an answer that someone gives him as a challenge, he knows how to work it he knows how to work it for himself. And I really did like that segment where they showed when he invaded WWE headquarters. And I love Heyman being on the Titantron, practically being via satellite, just spouting out how he feels about Triple H and all this stuff. I really did like that segment, and I enjoyed it highly. But the biggest event of the night was supposed to be the biggest was Ryback's feud with John Cena. Now, I'm really hoping that Ryback wins. There'll be a really unique twist, but I doubt that will ever happen. Ryback is kind of sort of not looking like a beast, but he's looking more like a cowardly heel and a very, very whiny one at that. And there's a lot more to Ryback than just that. And that's the biggest problem that I have, like straight up. Which leads me to SmackDown for tonight, May 10th. Now, with SmackDown, I love the segment that they had between him and Chris Jericho on the highlight reel. I loved it. And the reason why I actually absolutely liked it is because Chris Jericho can relate. Chris Jericho had practically did the same thing that Ryback did just to get to where he was. And honestly, I really thought that he was going to change tonight. I thought that Chris Jericho was going to probably temporarily go heel. I would really love. Well, actually, no. He kind of reminded me of Disgruntled Preacher when he was absolutely heel, but he had an angle to him. Like if he was just an anti-hero or maybe a frustrated face. No, not frustrated face. I will say just a complete anti-hero. He could probably pull that off. But honestly, I really love the whole dynamic that they had, the whole back and forth banter that they had in the highlight reel. And it would be really interesting to see Ryback going against Chris Jericho, possibly at Extreme Rules. But I'm doubting that that'll happen. I would love to see a feud between those guys. It'll be more interesting than seeing him and John Cena, because John Cena really does need to change his complete persona, in my opinion. But TNA, I really didn't think I would like TNA, and when TNA came on May 9th, honestly, I really did not expect to be wowed at all. I was really bored by the product for the last few weeks. I mean, but I will say tonight that night was a little different because I loved the segment between Kenny King and Chris Sabin. I loved it. You really didn't think that Kenny King would go the route of a face. He actually seemed like he was going the route of a face, and I thought he was, but then he turned back to being a heel. And usually when people do that for their character, it never does go right. But with him, it actually did go pretty well. It really worked with him. It really worked with the whole arrogant heel angle. And with Chris Sabin, he's now supposed to be the underdog. He's supposed to be the underdog face that you're supposed to root for. So now that even though that Kenny King showed a little bit of respect for Chris Sabin, it was awesome to actually see him go back to being a heel, and it actually did fit a little bit. So I really am interested in seeing Chris Sabin versus Kenny King after seeing that segment. But moving on to the main event of the night, It's all about the freaking aces and eights. I could care less about the aces and eights. That kind of ruined everything for me when they started revealing themselves. And now it's all about Bully Ray. He's supposed to be the most powerful heel in TNA, but to be completely honest with you, he's annoying the crap out of me. Seriously. And now that he crossed D'Lo Brown is gonna go to the good guys, and they're gonna take him out that way. That's just what's gonna happen. We all know. I can smell it. I know this is what's gonna happen. But it was nice to actually see Abyss come back and clean house. I love Abyss because let's face it, there's no such thing as a monster anymore. Look at Kane. Kane is freaking docile, and it bothers me to no end. So it's really nice to actually see Abyss come back and clean house. Now, before I close out, I'm going to leave you guys with a discussion of the night. What do you think about? Okay, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, about wrestling entertainment as a whole. Do you think it's a good thing, the best thing since sliced bread, and actually does bring a little bit more interest and a lot more fun into the wrestling as a whole? Or do you think it's a complete waste of time and it's something that shouldn't even been invented? Leave your comments in the comment section below or send me a video response on what you think about this subject. I am curious to hear what you guys think because, in my humble opinion, I think that wrestling entertainment is the best thing since sliced bread because I am all about the storylines. And not only that, I love the wrestling as well, and it blends really well, and it actually brings a little bit more flair, a lot more flavor, and a little bit more dynamic to all the characters. They're not just wrestlers, they're performers as well as characters, and it brings their characters to life, not only outside the ring, but inside the ring. The ring tells a story. The inside of the ring tells a story and closes the story, while the outside of the ring begins the story. And I am all about my stories. And that's why I feel that wrestling entertainment as a whole is probably the best thing since sliced bread. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. Leave me a comment or send me a video response. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. It's Nation.